Now, as we move into the traditional hottest months in East Texas, you might encounter a familiar problem: wildlife encroaching on human space. East Texas News Weekend's Bob Hallmark has more on how to prepare for it and what to do when wildlife visits your own backyard.
The intense heat of August and September will soon be on us, and that can mean more frequent interaction between wildlife and humans.
It's those interactions and ultimately us trying to help that can lead to problems. So if you are in a physical encounter, make yourself big and back away slowly.
Birds, mammals, and insects all have basic needs that heat and drought can affect.
As temperatures rise, animals will be looking for water sources, and predators will be looking for an easy meal.
Chickens and small pets are often easy marks.
Dogs, cats, livestock, when you've got animals during these hot birthing seasons. A dinner bell is a dinner bell. And if chicken's on the menu, they have no way of knowing that it's in that pen because we're trying to protect it from them.
And some wild animals can not only be aggressive, but carry disease that could be passed on.
Well, the biggest concern is going to be with human-animal interactions. Every area will identify 5 vector species for rabies, for example, and out here and throughout much of Texas, that's raccoons, skunks, foxes, bats, and coyotes.
And whatever you do, don't try to be a caretaker for the animals.
You can ultimately do more harm than good. You can get into legal trouble with it. Most of these animals are protected by state, sometimes federal laws.
Bob Hallmark, East Texas News Weekend.
The expert says to reduce the chances of wildlife encounters, eliminate sources of food, water, and shelter. Don't leave small pets or their pet food outside. Clear away brush or trash areas that animals could hide in, and don't provide food or water for them because it could be an invitation to stick around.